5 years. That's how long we told everyone we were separated. 5 years of people asking questions we didn't want to answer. 5 years of hiding the real reason we weren't together. But the truth, the real truth, was so much more complicated than anyone knew. Welcome to Hearts Mended, where real stories reveal the hidden depths of love, loss, and the things we never talk about. This is our story, and the truth about our separation is nothing like what anyone thought. If you believe in redemption, in facing hard truths, and in love that survives even the darkest secrets, please like this video, subscribe, and share your story in the comments. This is my story. This is the truth we've been hiding. From the outside, we were the perfect couple. I'm Michael. She's Victoria. We met in law school, got married at 28, and by 35, we had everything we were supposed to have: a beautiful house, successful careers, a 7-year-old daughter named Sophie, and a life that looked like something out of a magazine. But behind closed doors, everything was falling apart. Victoria had a secret so big, so consuming, that it had eaten away at the foundation of our marriage for years. And I didn't know about it until it was almost too late. She was struggling with an alcohol addiction. It wasn't the kind of addiction people talk about. She wasn't drinking in bars or showing up to work drunk. She was drinking at home. She was drinking in the mornings before work. She was drinking at night after Sophie went to bed. She was hiding bottles in the pantry, in her car, in her office. She was functional, but she was drowning. I didn't see it at first. I thought she was just stressed. I thought she was dealing with work pressure. I thought the distance between us was about something else entirely. It took me 3 years to realize what was happening. And when I finally did realize, I didn't know what to do. The morning I discovered the truth, I found an empty wine bottle hidden in the back of her closet. It was 7 a.m. She was already at work. Sophie was at school. And I was holding a bottle of wine that my wife had apparently drunk the night before, completely alone. My hands were shaking. I called her at work. I told her to come home. I didn't say why. She knew why. She came home at lunch, and when she walked through the door, I could see the fear in her eyes. "I found the bottle," I said. She didn't deny it. She didn't cry. She just sat down at the kitchen table and said, "I know." "How long?" I asked. 7 years, she said quietly. "Since before we even got married." I felt like the ground had disappeared beneath my feet. Victoria told me everything that day. She told me about her father's alcoholism and how she'd sworn she'd never become like him. She told me about the first time she'd had a drink to calm her anxiety about an important case. She told me about how that one drink became 2, then 3, then every night. She told me about the shame, the self-hatred, the constant fear that I would discover her secret. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked. "Because I was ashamed," she said. "Because I thought I could control it. Because I was terrified that if you knew the truth, you'd leave me and take Sophie with you." I was devastated. Not just because she had an addiction, but because she hadn't trusted me enough to tell me. Because she'd been living a double life for 7 years. Because I was married to someone I didn't really know. I told Victoria that she needed to get help. I told her she needed to go to rehab, to therapy, to AA, something. But I also told her that I couldn't be in the house with her while she was still drinking. I told her that I couldn't expose Sophie to it. So she left. We told everyone it was a trial separation. We told Sophie that Mommy needed some time to take care of herself. We told our families that we were working through some issues. No one knew the real reason. For 5 years, Victoria was in and out of treatment programs. She'd get sober for a few months, then relapse. She'd go to therapy, then stop going. She'd promise she was getting better, then I'd find evidence that she wasn't. During those 5 years, I was raising Sophie alone. During those 5 years, I was processing the betrayal of discovering that my wife had been living a lie. During those 5 years, I was angry, angrier than I'd ever been in my life. I was angry at Victoria for her addiction. I was angry at her for not telling me sooner. I was angry at myself for not seeing it. I was angry at the universe for putting us in this situation. But underneath the anger, I was grieving. I was grieving the marriage I thought I had. I was grieving the wife I thought I knew. I was grieving the family unit that I'd imagined would last forever. Sophie asked me every week, "When is Mommy coming home?" And every week, I had to tell her that I didn't know. By year 4 of our separation, I was ready to file for divorce. I'd hired a lawyer. I'd started the paperwork. I was done. I couldn't keep waiting for Victoria to get better. I couldn't keep hoping that someday she'd be the person I thought she was. But then, one day, Victoria called me and asked me to meet her. "I'm not coming back," I said immediately. "I'm filing for divorce." "I know," she said. "That's not why I want to meet with you. I just want to tell you something." We met at a coffee shop. Victoria looked different. She looked healthier. She looked present. She looked like someone who had finally stopped running. "I've been sober for 18 months, she said. "And I know that doesn't erase the 5 years I lied to you. I know that doesn't make up for the pain I've caused. But I want you to know that I finally understand what I've done." I listened. I didn't say anything. "I've been going to AA for 3 years, she continued. "I've been in therapy. I've been trying to understand why I drank, why I hid it, why I was so afraid to let you help me. And I realize now that I was terrified. I was terrified of losing you. I was terrified of losing Sophie. I was terrified that if I told the truth, you'd see me as broken. You'd see me as a failure. You'd leave." "And I did," I said. "You did," she acknowledged. "But not because I was an addict. You left because I didn't trust you enough to tell you the truth." That was the moment something shifted inside me. After that meeting, I realized something. I realized that I'd been angry at Victoria for lying to me. But I also realized that Victoria had been lying to herself even more. She'd been in denial about her addiction. She'd been ashamed of herself. She'd been sick, and she hadn't known how to ask for help. I didn't forgive her immediately. Forgiveness didn't work like that. But I started to understand her. I started to see her not as a liar, but as a sick person who had been trying to survive. I started to see her as someone who was finally getting help. I started to see her as my wife again, not the wife I thought I knew, but the real wife. The flawed, broken, struggling, fighting wife who was finally becoming whole. I called my lawyer and told him to hold off on the divorce proceedings. I started going to therapy, specifically, therapy for families dealing with addiction. I learned about alcoholism. I learned about codependency. I learned about my own role in enabling Victoria's behavior by not seeing it, by not asking questions, by accepting her excuses. And I learned something crucial. I had a choice. I could hold on to my anger and my sense of betrayal. Or I could choose to forgive and move forward. Victoria had been sober for 18 months. She'd been in therapy for 3 years. She'd been fighting for her recovery with everything she had. And I realized that if I didn't give her a chance, if I didn't meet her in that fight, I would be throwing away 20 years of marriage. So I made a decision. I asked Victoria to move back in. I told her that we were going to try again, but differently this time. We were going to do couples therapy. We were going to be honest with each other. We were going to face the hard truths together. The first months were difficult. There was still anger. There was still pain. There was still the question of trust. How do you rebuild trust after someone has lied to you for 7 years? But slowly, we started to rebuild. We started to have real conversations. We started to be vulnerable with each other. We started to tell each other the truth. Victoria told me about her childhood trauma that had led to her addiction. She told me about her fears and her shame and her self-hatred. And I listened. I didn't judge. I just listened. And I told her about my anger. I told her about feeling betrayed. I told her about the fear I'd had that I would lose her completely. I told her about my own failures as a husband, how I hadn't seen her pain, how I hadn't asked the hard questions, how I'd accepted her excuses instead of pushing her to get help. We both had to take responsibility. We both had to face hard truths. Sophie was confused at first when Victoria moved back in. But over time, she started to have a real relationship with her mother again. Not the relationship we'd had before the separation, but a real relationship between a mother who was in recovery and a daughter who was learning to trust her mother again. A year after Victoria moved back in, she celebrated 3 years of sobriety. We threw a small party. Just the three of us. And I realized that I had forgiven her. Not because what she'd done was okay. Not because the 5 years of separation hadn't happened. But because I understood her. Because I saw her fighting. Because I saw her healing. The truth about our 5-year separation isn't a story about a failed marriage. It's a story about a marriage that almost failed, and then chose to fight for itself. It's a story about addiction and recovery. It's a story about betrayal and forgiveness. It's a story about the truth finally setting us free. The truth about our separation is that it saved our marriage. It gave Victoria the space to get help. It gave me the space to process my emotions. It gave both of us the opportunity to become who we were meant to be, not just individually, but together. If you have someone in your life who is struggling with addiction, I want you to know that recovery is possible. It's hard. It's messy. It requires honesty and vulnerability and a willingness to face hard truths. But it's possible. If you are struggling with addiction, I want you to know that you don't have to do it alone. You don't have to hide. You don't have to be ashamed. There are people who love you, and they want to help you. But you have to let them. And if you have forgiven someone who hurt you deeply, I want you to know that your forgiveness is an act of courage. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing to move forward with hope instead of with anger. Like this video if this story moved you. Subscribe to Hearts Mended for more stories of redemption, recovery, and reconciliation. And please, share your story in the comments. Have you overcome an addiction? Have you helped someone overcome an addiction? Have you forgiven someone who betrayed you? Your stories matter. Your recovery matters. Your forgiveness matters. Thank you for listening to our truth. Thank you for understanding that marriage isn't always perfect, but it can be real. And thank you for believing that forgiveness and recovery are always possible. The truth about our separation is that we chose to come back home to each other. And that made all the difference.